Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. Thanks for joining me. Today's video is going to be a gauntlet review of the Celtibero Survival Knife from the folks at CDS Survival. The folks at CDS were kind enough to send this to the gauntlet so we could show it to you, run it through a test. Very interesting knife. This knife is made in Spain. It's a handmade knife using laser cut blanks. And so without further ado, let's talk about the specs of this thing real quick and we'll get to doing some knife stuff. Okay, once again, this is the Celtibero knife from the folks at CDS Survival. This knife is handmade in Spain with a blade cut by laser. The overall length of 275 millimeters or 10.82 inches. Features a 5.7 inch or 145 millimeter blade of stainless steel Molybdenum-Vanadium 58 or MOVA 58. Has a Cocobolo wood handle. Comes with a genuine leather sheath with an included natural sharpening stone and a firesteel. Okay, so that's some of the specs and close-ups of this, what is really a pretty knife. So let me show you a couple other things that I thought were pretty cool. First of all, it's got a lashing hole here on the front and here on the pommel, which is slightly exposed. It's a full tang knife, as you can see. It's pretty thick. I would say this is, I don't really have that information, but it's about maybe 3/16 thick, something like that. And it's got some pretty aggressive jimping on back, which you know I may not care for. So I guess you could lash this and make a spear or whatever if that's what you like to do. It appears to have a pretty sharp 90-degree spine. We will of course check that out. These Cocobolo wood handles are bolted on with Allen bolts, which I like. Instead, you know, that means you can service them and replace them. I don't know if they're epoxied or not. Altogether, you know, just doing the Chris Tanner squeeze test, it really feels pretty comfortable. It's got just a little bit of a swell in the handle right here, and it's kind of flat on the sides. A little bit of a flare out here on at the butt end to kind of catch your finger. So it fits my hand really, really well. This thing is also really, really sharp. I'm gonna try not to do the really, really thing too much more, but let me show you something here. Okay, there's my hairy arm, and so definitely shaving sharp. Let's take a look at this sheath, which I kind of like. First of all, it's got a snap retention here, so it's just a really old school sheath. Got a pocket on front, which the natural stone fits in really, really well. I'm assuming after you use this thing's going to loosen up, but I'll tell you, it is in there. You really got to work it to get it out a little bit, which is good. That means as it loosens up a little bit, it won't get too loose. But this appears to be about a medium grit stone. It's a natural stone. The little paper that came with it said, don't use oil, use water. I actually think it'll be a pretty good stone. It feels like it to me. And then it comes with what is undoubtedly just a cheap ferro rod. Just a regular, I think that's a 1/4 inch, maybe a 3/16, I don't know. Standard size, standard, you know, $5 ferro rod. Nothing fancy, but the sheath has a ferro rod loop on it. You can put whatever ferro rod you want in it. It's got a lashing loop on the bottom, a couple of holes in here. Another thing I think is really nice about the sheath, okay, not only has it got like a hanging belt loop so you can hang this down, it's also got a little leather on back of it that you can use for a scout carry. You can slide your belt through this way. And it's tight, but I got a pretty thick 1.5 inch gun belt through there. So it works pretty well. Or you can actually use these notches here, 2 little slices here, if you want to carry it a little higher. So, you know, it gives you 3 different carry options here, which I kind of like. Anyway, that's the sheath, that's the knife, the details and specs. Let's see how well it does some knife stuff. Okay, so I got a piece of, I'm pretty sure this is dogwood, which is pretty hard. This has been down a while, so this might be a little rotten. We're going to do a little chopping because it's a survival knife and it's a big blade. We're going to just see how well it does that first. So this is not super hard dogwood, but so first test, got to tell you, my hand's a little red there maybe. If it's not, it ought to be, because definitely got some hot spots right in here chopping. This thing just really, you know, it wound up sliding down into my hand and kind of, because it slips a lot. I got a feeling as my hand gets sweaty or wetter, slip more. So it a little hot spot there on the chopping, and that may just be because of the wood, friction from the wood, but still a little carving. Guess again, this is almost crumbly dogwood. We're going to try it and let's see how well it does any kind of feathers, because the knife is sharp, and you don't want to make feathers on a flat piece of wood. Let's try it here. Okay, show you that. Not too shabby, really. Let's see how well it the back of it scrapes. Not too bad. Now it's pretty dry out here today, so we're not going to actually build a fire or start a fire. Okay, so let's just see. The spine feels pretty sharp on this. Oh yeah. Okay, so I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm actually the first person in the Gauntlet to review this knife this time. So I'm starting the process out. So I kind of just wanted to set a baseline. You know, it's kind of boring if everybody does the same thing. I understand that, but sometimes some things are good to do the same thing, so we can see how they perform for different people. So I think I've done pretty much everything I need to do with this thing. I did not do any batoning because somebody else will do that, I'm sure. Look, it's a big solid hunk of steel. I think we have shown time and time again, YouTube in general has shown time and time again, that if you whack on the back of a solid piece of steel with a piece of wood, if it's at all decently made, you know, this thick of knife, it's going to do fine. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm sure somebody else will do that if you are. But as far as just general use, you know, I did a little chopping with it. I think it's a pretty hefty blade. I like big hefty blades. My favorite thing, I guess, is fire, and definitely think you can get a fire going with this thing. It actually did surprisingly well with that little cheap ferro rod. I mean, it was throwing some sparks out. It was carving them off good. One test left to do, and I'm kind of at a loss because I'm not in my high-tech normal testing facility at home. I'm actually in the field. But you got to make do, right? I'm gonna call that balanced. All right. Okay, so once again, that's the Celtibero Survival Knife from the folks at CDS Survival. And I'll tell you what I do and don't like about this knife, okay? First of all, I also need to point out, this is over $100. I'm not sure, depending on the pricing, but it's definitely over $100. This is the premium model. So I like the shape of the handle, the grip of the handle. I think the Cocobolo wood looks good. It looks like it's probably stabilized, and we'll find out as we get through the Gauntlet. For chopping though, it actually wound up with some hot spots right in here. And you know, it's not an axe, so I'm willing to accept that for the functionality of the knife. In my opinion, anyway, as far as I'm concerned, the balance of this thing makes up for a lot, because it is really, really well balanced, and aerodynamically balanced anyway. I like the big old blade. It's a big solid blade. The edge is really good. It's kind of a I want to say it's almost like saber ground. It's not hollow ground. It's just a flat down to a secondary bevel. I like the the fact that the point itself is kind of in line with the center of it. Lashing holes are good. Exposed pommel is good for banging stuff. I really like the sheath. I'm pretty big on leather sheaths. I think they're really cool. This is a really well-made sheath, and it also kind of looks pretty fancy too, which is cool. It's got some other lashing holes up here you could use to lash your knife even more if you want to lash the handle. I like the natural stone. I think that's a really good addition. Surprisingly, this little cheap $5 ferro rod threw some sparks like no tomorrow. And I think it's really cool that it's got the 3 different carry options, the different configurations. You can carry it different ways. Those are all pluses in my opinion. In addition to that, the sheath seems to be very well made. Again, this is handmade in Spain from a laser cut blade. And folks at CDS Survival were kind enough to send this into the Gauntlet. So. Also, don't forget, you can follow this knife through the process and all the rest of the Gauntlet gear at thegauntlet.tv. They'll put a link below. Put a link below to this knife where you can go check it out on Amazon, as always. So as always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing, for clicking that like button, thumbs up, for sharing it with your friends, for watching those ads. Thank you so much for doing your shopping on Amazon through my links. Every time you do, I get a little commission, and every little commission adds up, and I sincerely appreciate it. So once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident, so be prepared. See you next time. Kind of a, you know, see all that hair laying there. Anyway, airplane. Once again, this is the, what is this thing? Really makes up for it. Sorry, I got a little something in the hole there. I call that a pass.